This is it. Here we are together, day one, minute one, hour one of On the Path with Cheryl Nembhard. I am so excited. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And I say us because we are all in the classroom of life. We are all learning, growing, loving from our mistakes and our successes, and we are becoming our best selves. And I thought that we would kick off this series with one of the most important topics for me that I think is the foundation for change, which is authenticity. We cannot learn, grow, tweak, fix anything until we are first real with ourselves and where we are at in our lives. And there's no better person to talk about authenticity than a woman who has single-handedly changed my life, has shaped my life in so many ways, my dear friend Diane Clemons. Her story is going to blow you away, and how she lives a bold life of authenticity. Listen to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to introduce to you a very dear friend of mine. Diane Clemons is a powerhouse in this city. She's a light, she's a lighthouse, she's a mentor, she's a philanthropist, television host, podcast host, I can't.
Close to 300.
300 schools built under the charitable organization run by her and her husband, Mike Pinball Clemons. This is my sister, but beyond that, she is an aunt to my children. She is a mentor. She is a get you all the way together. You ain't that cute, Cheryl. She will tell me all about myself, but we hold each other accountable. But she's a great inspiration for authenticity, because no matter where God has taken her, she's remained the same. Diane, welcome.
Thank you, Shamo.
Oh, Lord.
I call you Shamo,
oh,
right?
Lord.
You know, that's our little thing, right?
Okay, so that's my nickname. It's Shamo, but you got to say it Shamo.
Shamo.
If you're going to say it right. Di. Oh, whoops, there we go.
Yeah,
that's
there
mine.
We go. That's
Diane, I am so happy to have you here. I couldn't think of a better first guest to kick it off, because the topic of authenticity is, I think it's critical to even begin to change. You can't change until you first realize that you need change, that you need to check in with where you're at, be real with where you're at. So authenticity is step one, I believe, on getting on the path to your better self. You can add all these other wonderful things, strength and bravery, but if you're fake, it's all going to fall right through this empty basket. So when I say authenticity, this word, or living an authentic life, your own working definition, what comes to your mind?
Wow. Well, for me, right off the bat, is really being true to who I am. Right? Just understanding who I am and living that life, right? Just not worrying about anything else, trusting God and allowing Him to be at the head of that life, but really just being real.
Being real.
You know, you and I talk about this a lot, and I tell you all the time, Shay, I'm just real. What you see is what you know. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And if you're living your best life and you're being true to who you are, then all of that stuff is natural. Yeah. You are being real. You're being true. You're being authentic. You just
true to your giftings, your calling, true to what makes you unique.
Check.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah. So it's just really just being true to who you are. Being authentic is being true to who you are.
Yeah.
And living your best life.
Ooh, I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Living your best life. Because
Come on.
if you're not living your best life,
Yeah.
how are you going to help others, first of all?
Come
How are you
on.
going to be an example for me to my daughters? Because
Yeah.
I have 3.
Yeah.
I need to be an example to them. And if I'm not living my best life,
Yeah.
I'm not putting my best foot forward for them,
Yeah.
then what am I doing?
So we have would you say, from what you're saying, we have a responsibility to live authentically for the next generation coming up?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That is my belief. That is my true
Being a
belief.
mentor and
Absolutely. And especially for me, because I have girls.
yeah.
Right? And for me, I want my girls to say that I'm their Shira.
Yeah.
I don't want them to look outside of the home
Mhm.
to look for that leadership, to
Yeah.
look for that guidance, to look for that person that they look up to. I want them to say, my mom is that person.
Come on.
And so I have a responsibility to live that life for them.
I love that. So so someone watching right now is saying, that's the life I want to live. That's the person I want to be. How do I get there? What does step 1 look like? What's the first few things I need to how do you get to this life?
For me, it's easy. It's just trusting God, having faith
Yeah.
and trusting Him. Because if we don't trust Him,
Yeah.
right, how are we going to step out?
Yeah. Right.
Right? And for me, I had a problem with that. That was a big thing for me because I just, I was scared. I was afraid. I didn't trust my instincts. I didn't trust stepping out.
What were you
and-
afraid
and
of? I wonder.
I didn't think I was good enough.
You?
Okay? I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't
What?
think I had what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To do the things that I knew I was called to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But I was afraid. And finally, I said, you know what? In order for me to do what God has already planned for me to do,
Right.
I've got to trust Him.
I love that.
I've got to trust Him.
And trust Him and trust in who He's called you to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. So step 1 is acknowledging that God has called me, God has made me, shaped me for something. I need to do that something
Absolutely.
authentically.
Absolutely. And understanding that, we always like to say that God does not call the qualified,
Right.
but He qualifies the unqualified.
Listen.
Right? So
If you are at home and you'd like to donate your offering to this powerful sermon, listen to me. She just said that God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the unqualified. I'm done. This is. Do you see?
and
do you
it's
see
so
why?
true.
Okay.
It's just so true because, like half the things I'm doing right now, I just trust God.
Yeah. And you
Right?
just
I'm not qualified
Yeah.
in any of those things, but
Yeah.
I just trust God. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just trust that He's going to guide me, and that's what it's all about. It's about having that faith.
So, I hear that, and the first thing that comes to mind is all the stories you've told me about your upbringing. When I look at your life, when I observe your life from the outside, as someone that knows you as a sister, but even just an outsider, I have seen literally God elevate and elevate and elevate. Even this intro to this moment is going to make her uncomfortable. That's how authentic and real she is. She doesn't like any sort of fanfare. But I have seen God open doors and open doors and open doors for you and your husband. And it is conservatively easy to say you are one of the most prominent African Canadian couples in Canada, and what you do and give back on the level to the tunes of millions that you give back, and all the doors and all the accolades. People wanting your husband to run for mayor. Like it's at that level. You've never changed. You have never changed, Diane. So what is it? What is that grounding moral compass about your upbringing that keeps you tethered?
Let me put it this way. I know where I've come from.
You know where you've come from, and where is that?
Right?
Tell me.
I know where I've come from because growing up, I didn't have much. Right? I grew up in a family.
I want you to qualify that because I know. She said she didn't have much, but let's qualify that. Go ahead.
Let's just say that we were pretty poor. We were pretty poor, and we didn't have much. And so I remember that. I remember those times. I remember the struggle. that my family had, that my parents had, trying to take care of 8 kids. It was 10 of us living in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bath.
Pause.
Okay.
10 people, 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom.
One. Okay.
That's the life
so
Diane came from.
We didn't have a whole lot. And to break it down even more,
Yes, please.
I like to share this story about, I was about probably 7 or 8, and my mom and dad decided, you know what, there's no food in the house today, we've got to go out and we've got to do something, right? So they took off, went, I guess, to a few food banks trying to figure things out, and left my older sister in charge, and said, you just look after your siblings, and we'll be back. And hours went by, and they weren't back. And you know, Shay, when you're hungry, you can get a little mean, right? You get antsy, and all of those things began to happen. You got 8 kids in the house hungry. So when I say there was nothing in the house, you open the cupboards, there's nothing but a box of salt. That's it. What? You open the fridge, there's nothing. 0. Right? And back then there wasn't any bottled water, okay? So there was nothing.
But
and
salt.
So salt, that was it. So my older sister decided, after, you know, us complaining so much, she said, you know what, I'm gonna go to the kitchen, I'll be right back. You guys sit in a circle. She sat us in a circle, she went to the kitchen. She came back, she had a box of salt in her hand and a roll of toilet paper in the other hand.
Oh my gosh.
She sat us
Diane.
down. She ripped out, you know how the toilet paper is in squares, put a piece in front of all of us, and began to sprinkle the salt.
On the toilet paper?
On the toilet paper. She sat down and she looked at us and she said, now roll it up. And we're looking at her like, you have lost your mind, right? But of course we're obedient because she's the eldest. So we roll the tissue up and she says, okay, now I want everybody to put it in your mouth and I want you to begin to eat it. And we did. Unbeknownst, as the old people used to say back in the day, unbeknownst to us, what she was doing is, she knew that salt was going to satiate us. It was going to take that hunger
cut
pain
that hunger
away until my parents came back for food. That's how poor I was.
When you come from, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, getting emotional. When you come from 8 children, 10 people in a house, cupboards bare, no food, sucking salt on a toilet paper.
Yes,
it doesn't matter how much money you come into, how much favor and prominence, that must always stick.
You don't forget
You
that.
don't forget
You
that.
don't forget that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's instilled in me to give. It's in me. It's in my blood.
Is that why your
give.
heart beats for the poor the way
That's
it does?
right.
And the
Absolutely.
you know, the unprivileged and
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom taught us there's always someone worse off than you. Although we don't have much, trust me, there's somebody out there who's worse off than we are. And she would always bring others into our home. And we didn't even have, we're thinking, okay, Mom, there's 1 chicken. And back then you didn't have chicken parts, it was 1 chicken. And it's 10 of us. Okay, all of us know how a chicken is cut up.
Yeah.
She would always bring somebody over.
Wow.
And she would say, God's gonna provide, don't worry. And every time, Cheryl, every time.
Okay, you are she's taking us to school, right? This is what it is. Every person being a teacher and all of us being students and teachers interchanging. So teach us now. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in your life that have shaped you? Whatever has been taught to you, a saying, a thought, an idea, something maybe you always say to your husband or your kids. Tell us about that.
Goes back again to growing up, to my mom, and the life lessons that I learned through her, because I tell you, every life lesson I've learned has come through my parents.
Wow.
And just seeing, for me, is seeing her faith. Seeing my mother's faith
In the midst of
everything that we went through, seeing her faith and seeing her rebound every single time. She bounced back every time, no matter what we were going through, every time through her sickness. My mom was sick the entire time of my entire childhood. She was sick. I would see the ambulance come to our home at least once a week.
You're kidding me.
No joke. To literally resuscitate her on the floor.
Oh my
These are the things that I saw growing up, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of sickness, there was a lot of hardship, there was a lot of pain. And I saw those things, right? So for me, watching her and watching her faith,
Yeah.
it just, how can I not trust God is what I have to say.
Yeah.
How can I not trust him?
Yeah.
When I saw the things that I saw, when I was 18 years old, my dad was murdered.
Your dad was murdered
He
when
was
you were
murdered
18.
when I was 18 years old. And that's pretty life-changing,
Yeah.
right?
My gosh.
He was the sole provider for my family, and as you can imagine, we were devastated.
Yeah.
He was shot 3 times for no reason at all.
It's horrible.
No reason at all. And to see my mom and her strength and her faith. But what got me with that, although we were broken, to see my mom invite the man who murdered her husband to our home
Oh, stop.
and forgave him in front of her 8 kids. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but to see her forgive him, Shay, for me, that's powerful, and it's a life lesson that I will never, ever forget. Never forget.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
For me, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And that speaks
Absolutely.
of faith and trust in God
And the power of forgiveness.
and the power of forgiveness.
Because she had to let it go so she could live for her family. Because it'll kill you, won't it? That
it will
bitterness.
rip you apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Diane.
So that's true authenticity.
Yeah.
That's being real. That's being true to who you are.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't in her to hate.
Yeah.
It wasn't in her. So she had to forgive.
Yeah. And and I love that, because what you're saying to me, even as we're kind of beginning to wind down, is that even though we're talking about forgiveness, it does play a role in authenticity.
Absolutely. it
Because
does.
being angry and bitter and vengeful, when you know that's not who you are,
That's right.
you have to make key decisions
That's
to
right.
release that,
That's right.
so that you can be exactly who you are.
Absolutely.
Diane, as we wrap up this conversation, I gotta shape this, because who you are today, that upbringing, that experience, how it's made you, it has launched an entire global humanitarian effort. Could you tell us just a little bit, because I feel like it would give a nice frame to this authentic life that she's living. Tell us about everything you're doing with your organization, the name of it, what it's accomplishing, please.
Well, my husband and I started a foundation, and it's called the Pinball Clemons Foundation, and we started that just over 10 years ago. And we took a trip to Africa to do some PSAs several years back, and on that trip it broke us, and we came back and we said we have to do something. And so we started our foundation, and from that we have now built close to 300 schoolhouses in Kenya, in Haiti, in China, Sierra Leone. For me, my husband likes to say, we like to give a hand up, not a hand out, right? And for us, that's what happened with us. We had a lot of people along the way to help us and to help our families, right? And to give the gift of education, for us, is the best gift that you can ever give. Because if you have education, then that is the one thing that will allow you to serve.
And that no one can take away from you.
Nobody can take that away from you.
You want to talk about being, having a sense of identity, empowerment, and being authentic. Getting that education and being able to chart your own course and not let your environment, your circumstances, your poverty, whatever the obstacles are, you could say, I've got this way out, this tunnel to live my best life.
That's right.
Diane, there are no words to thank you for. I'm going to get emotional and I can't. I got to hold it together. There are no words enough to thank you for this moment. Thank you for taking us on the path to authenticity, and for all that you do. If I can I know I'm speaking for so many that will watch this. Thank you and your husband for the 300 schools plus, and they're just getting started. This isn't the end. That the work that they're doing across the globe, and they do some amazing work locally for underprivileged kids, inner city kids. I've seen the work; it's phenomenal. Thank you for staying authentic.
Praise God.
I
Praise
thank
God.
you as a sister and as a friend, as a close friend. You were there when my daughter was 1 month old.
We were pregnant together.
We were pregnant. We were pregnant together. So we have been together for many years, and she has remained the same, her and her husband. I want to thank you for this awesome interview.
Thank you, Mama.
Wow, wow, wow. I hope that there was something said, something communicated that hit you right in your spirit, that is changing you, impacting you, making you think about authenticity in a different way. Who we are and our lives and our experiences shape how we view the world, but we still are on the path. So there's still opportunity for us to really get grounded, really become real. I find that the people in my life, and this is my closing lesson to you, that don't have a lot, boast a lot. They wear it on their clothes, their language, they treat people horribly. Everything is a show. But as I go up higher and as I mix with people at different levels in society, those that are super involved, prominent, very low-key clothing, very polite, servant's heart, humble. You wouldn't even know who they are in a room unless they tell you that they're owners, CEOs, multimillionaires, organizational leaders, charting movements. There is something to be said about fixing it in here so that we don't have to boast and put it on for show out here. When you are authentic, that is the best makeover. Let's keep learning. Let's keep loving. Let's keep growing. I'll see you next Monday on The Path.